Welcome to another episode of the National Wrap, covering from Friday 31st of Jan to Thursday 6th of February. My name is Paul Shelton, coming to you from Transition Australia. You know, it's hard to keep up with what's going on in this climate emergency, and some will even try to tell you that not much is going on, that it's all no change, business as usual. But the reality is actually nothing like that. Passionate people and dedicated groups are getting on with making the transition to a low energy, low consumption and community focused future. There are way too many events to know them all, particularly this week. So this wrap up is all about making it easier to get a handle on what's happening across the country and in your town. So let's get on with it. We start off this week with the media. In Australia, two companies account for 86% of all newspaper sales. What's more concerning is that 59% of the sale of all daily newspapers is owned by News Corp Australia, that has been complicit in promoting a climate-denying, anti-science culture that even went so far as to suggest that climate change is a good thing. This has got to stop. So Extinction Rebellion is organising a lie-in this Friday 31st to draw attention to this issue in both Melbourne and Sydney. Melbourne starts at 1 p.m. at News Corp's office in City Road, Melbourne, and then at 5:30 at 2 Holt Street, it's Sydney's turn. I'm not entirely sure that the returning of Parliament this coming week is going to herald any leadership from our government, but there are a whole heap of events in Canberra this week to make sure our elected leaders are left in no doubt about our desire for action. On Saturday 1st, Parents for Climate Action will be holding the Great Climate Barbecue at Parliament House from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. This is a family-friendly and strictly non-violent event with fun activities for kids and a very serious purpose for parents. On Sunday, it's the turn of the People's Climate Assembly as they take the message to our leaders. This is a coalition of different climate action groups who really want to hammer home the message that the Australian people will no longer accept complacency and denial of the truth. We need action. This is a multi-day event that starts with a procession and fun day on Sunday the 2nd and continues all the way through to Thursday the 6th. The 4th in particular looks like a big day at Parliament House as the Love in a Changing Climate group and the hands-down winner for best titled group name, the Civil Disobedience Penguins, will be joining the action. So if you're around the ACT, then get involved in this week and make sure your voices are heard. Our climate is changing, and this is going to bring with it not just physical and societal challenges, but also psychological ones. As Psychology for a Safe Climate says, the need to support each other and ourselves has never been more important. With this in mind, they are offering the opportunity to stop, reflect and process difficult emotions in their climate grief workshops on Tuesday, Feb 4, at the Green Room in Melbourne's Multicultural Hub. This runs from 6 to 9 p.m. and is a collaboration between Stop Adani Melbourne and Psychology for a Safe Climate. Whilst it's not always easy, we desperately need to break the cycle of ever-increasing consumption and waste. With that in mind, there are a few events happening across the country to help you upcycle, repair or share what you have or what you need. On Saturday, Transition Town Bayswater in WA is having their monthly share and repair session at 2 p.m. Whilst on the other side of the country, Repair Cafe Albury is doing the same thing at 10 a.m. in Wodonga. The next day it's Sydney's turn, with the regular Repair Cafe North Sydney fixing, mending and improving from 2 p.m. at the Living and Learning Centre in Lane Grove. One of the biggest polluters and best ways to decrease our impact is being conscious of our clothing and textile consumption and waste. To help us make better choices about what we wear, there are two events happening in Melbourne. The first one is Sunday 2nd of Feb from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. at the Sustainable Eden That Is series in Brunswick, as they hold the Metamorphosis Sustainable Fashion Runway and Market. This event will involve market stalls, workshops, speakers, art installations and performances, as well as some food and music to make it an amazing day. The fashion focus continues on Tuesday with a fashion apocalypse at Trades Hall in Victoria. This is being put on by the amazing Coalition of Everyone and is the first of 4 citizens' assemblies that they are holding to look at how ordinary people can make policy decisions to tackle climate change. Obviously, this one is focused on fashion and asks how can we move fashion onto a sustainable footing. Finally, in the world of fashion is the opportunity for you to step into the driver's seat and upcycle the clothes that you already own with Linden New Art in Ackland Street, St Kilda, Victoria. This event is on Sunday the 8th from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. and is donating 50% of the workshop fees to Wildlife Victoria to help their efforts to look after animals injured in the fires. If you're looking for a slightly different pace, then you might be interested in joining the Beyond Zero Emissions and the Australian-German Climate and Energy College for a discussion about the role of law in our transition to a zero-carbon economy. Led by Alyssa DeWitt from Norton Rose Fulbright, this event is a recurrent event that happens on the first Monday of the month from 6:30 to 8 p.m. at the Fritz Lowe Theatre in the University of Melbourne. Or maybe you want to step up your protesting. Maybe you're up for some active civil disobedience training. Extinction Rebellion all over the country runs these sessions, though they do recommend that you've done the heading into extinction and what to do about it talk first. This weekend it's the turn of Apollo Bay on the western coast of Victoria, where XR will be running the civil disobedience training on Friday the 31st of January at 4 p.m. at the Mara Warren Apollo Bay Neighbourhood House. It's super important that we build a community of action and a narrative of change, but let's face it, transport to events takes time, energy, and often involves a carbon cost. Well, the Global Eco Village Network, GEN, would like to solve these issues for you as they hold the Communities for Future online summit. This is a 10-day event that involves 3 speakers a day from all over the world to talk about how we can build more community, lasting resilience, and a regenerative culture in the face of climate change. Whilst you can do this entirely for free and by yourself, you can also register a local hub to make it a local event for your community. Staying in the online world, our next event is here to help you make sense of what has been a rough start to the year. This can be a bit overwhelming though, and knowing where to start to become part of the solution is not always easy. That's why AYCC are running a Climate Justice and Bushfire, How You Can Make a Difference session. This is an online session, so you don't need to travel, and it aims to help people learn about climate justice, how to get involved to take meaningful action, and perhaps more importantly, how to connect with a community that can support you in the ups and downs. The starting time depends on where you are and ranges from 4 p.m. in WA to 7 p.m. in Victoria, Tasmania, ACT and New South Wales. But lock in Wednesday the 5th of February to be part of this event. There are a couple of groups who've been around for a long time fighting the good fight, and one of these is the Friends of the Earth. What you may not know is that there are Friends of the Earth groups in most states. If this is news to you, then maybe you might like to check out whether you have a group in your neighbourhood. Or maybe this is all old news and you're well up on where they are and what they do, and are keen to get a bit more involved. Well, if you're in Melbourne, then you are in luck, as the Victorian group is holding an info night to talk about some of their projects like Act on Climate, Yes to Renewables and Sustainable Cities, and how you can get involved. This session is from 6 p.m. on Monday the 3rd at 182 St George's Road, North Fitzroy. But what if you don't want to talk? Maybe you don't want to protest. Maybe you just want to lend your voice to the climate crisis and sing. Well, if you're in Geelong, then this is your chance, as the Geelong Climate Choir has its first rehearsal this Monday from 7 p.m. at the Geelong Trades Hall. This week's event in focus is the National Sustainable Living Festival that will be running from the 1st to the 29th of February. We'll have lots and lots of events popping up in future wraps, but we thought it was worth shining a light because this really highlights how much the narrative has changed since a couple of people gathered in Musk in regional Victoria in 1998. Now the event welcomes over 100,000 visits every year and is the largest sustainability festival in Australia. Their mission remains the same though: accelerate the uptake of sustainable living and seek solutions to global warming. This is an amazing event and really provides fertile ground to engage, connect and work on the tools for change that we want to see and the difference we want to make in the world. There are heaps of events, from workshops, demonstrations, artworks, films, live performances and much, much more, so make sure you get involved. So that's all we've got time for this week, and that's barely scratched the surface. If you've got any events that you want some help in promoting, or maybe to get included in future national wraps, then take the 2 minutes to load up the event on the Transition Australia website at www.transitionaustralia.net. Because the more events that we can get out into the public ear, the more we change the narrative from no change to no option but change. Thanks for your time. My name is Paul. I'm from Transition Australia, and I'll see you next week.
The Climactic Collective.